Hello family and welcome to Everything Bass. So we're continuing on in the Unlimited Musician series. And this one I don't even really have to have a bass on for because we're really going to talk about a concept. And it's going to challenge maybe some of you because let me just get into it. It's hard to describe. So if you guys have gone through the entire series, you know my story. I was very, very creative, could write tons of stuff, went to music school, and I dried up. After graduating from music school, I found a challenge to create. I found a challenge to express. My focus was now on theoretical concepts, which I'm glad to have. I'm not downplaying that. I think everyone who can should go and get advanced music training. But I needed to return my focus and become creative again. And my whole motto is that creativity is a muscle. It has to be exercised to get stronger. If we aren't creative, we can get weaker. And one of the things is, like, if you're in a cover band, that's great. There's a lot of benefit. I loved being in a cover band, and I kind of hope to be in one again. I love playing other people's tunes. But sometimes when that's all you're doing, so you're recreating other people's music, you're not creating your own. Your creative elements that you're playing can atrophy. So when it's called upon for you to, like, write something or improvise, you might feel like, oh my gosh, I suck. That's only because you haven't exercised it. And that's what this video series is about, is trying to get you to exercise your creativity, get it stronger, and get used to being creative. And that's a cool thing. I love it. And it's going to blend in, by the way. It's going to bleed over into other elements of your life beyond music. Once you become creative, you're not just musically creative. You're going to see creative problem solving getting better in your life. You're going to see, like, creative ways to show people you love them. I mean, just once you elevate creativity in one aspect of your life, it just comes and takes over everything. And it's an awesome state of mind to be in. So get back to when I graduated from Musicians Institute, was lucky enough to be hired there as a teacher, was in several bands, some of the bands doing original content, and I was frustrated. So one day I was sitting thinking about when I was my most creative. Like, what point in my life was I the most creative? And it was kind of when I was in high school. So I started looking at what was my environment like in high school. You know, I would get out of school. First thing I'd do is I'd come home and I'd get an RC Cola. Now, I know a lot of you might not know what RC Cola, Royal Crown Cola, but they used to have these big 16-ounce bottles, and my mom would get them. And so I would come home from school, grab one of those, do my homework, and then I would also, at that time, I was voraciously reading both comic books and sci-fi fantasy novels. And and the other thing is, I was doing a lot with Legos. Even though I was in high school, I just loved building things with Legos. And my dad had little motors that I don't even know where he got them, but I would actually be able, before they ever came out, like with the kits that had motors in them, I had helicopters where the blades would spin. So I was constantly building with Legos. So as weird as it might sound, I thought, you know what? Here I am. I'm in my 20s. I'm working at Musicians Institute. I'm playing a lot with bands. I'm going to recreate that environment. So it took some looking, but I found Royal Crown Cola. I had to get it in bottles, not bottles. I had to get it in cans because the big bottles weren't being made anymore, at least weren't being distributed in my area. So I got Royal Crown Cola, and I'm not suggesting, like, you guys don't start drinking. It wouldn't work. You have to do what's in your environment. For me, it was that cola, and I would stop on the way home from I could walk from Musicians Institute to my apartment. I walked by a newsstand that sold comic books. I'd pick up a comic book, and just one comic book. So I'd go home every day after work, have a Coke, read a comic book, and I started getting Legos again. I couldn't afford much. I was on a very small thing, but I was able to build, get little, like, I think what they call them, like the beginner creators kits, but it was just basic blocks, not an actual, like, back then there wasn't a lot of, like, pre-made kits. So I would do that. I would come home, do my practicing, which was my high school studying, doing my homework. I would do my practicing, having my cola. I would read a comic book, and while whatever is going on, before rehearsal, whatnot, I'd mess around with Legos. It's as weird as it sounds. Immediately, I started getting more creative thoughts. It could be just from reading. When you read, you're reading something and you're painting the picture in your head. Even a comic book, even though it has graphic things, the pages kind of come alive. When you're really into it, your mind is actually filling in blanks and it's actually becoming creative. So it could be just that. But there was something about like the taste of a Royal Crown Cola, which I hadn't had since I moved out of my mom and dad's house, and playing with Legos that reset me. It also allowed me to put away some of the noise of being an adult. You know, some of the worries and concerns. I could just be creative. And sure enough, I started coming up with new ideas. And it started very slowly. I just started like playing the songs we were always playing, but come up with cool new like little licks and stuff to play and be like, wow, where'd that come from, you know? And as I really got into it, I started seeing that I could write more like easily. I could come up with new concepts for songs and things like that. So I took a time in my life that was very creative, and I took key elements that I thought were tied into that, and I recreated it in my current life, my current stage of age and all that. So how can you do this? Well, if you're a young person, you might not even be in your most creative element. You might not have that time to look back on because you're looking forward to it. So one thing I would say is try, if you find yourself not being very creative, look what's dominating your day. What are you doing the most of? I love video games, but if I play them too much, unless they're ones that take a lot of creative thinking, strategy, and things like that, I have tendency my creativity wanes. But I still play them at times. I just regulate how long I play them. But now I make sure that I don't go to bed without reading. Reading is a key part for me for creativity. I've met other musicians who were the most creative when they were also doing something else with art, when they were painting, when they were, one was a sculptor, I remember. It was going back many decades. But when they sculpted, took time to sculpt, which took a lot of time, and the cleanup was a lot. So they had cut it out of their life because that wasn't what they were doing professionally, and they focused on music. When he got back to sculpting, he found that his music creativity came up. So look at that. If you're an older player and you have many different periods in your life, look back and say, well, when was I most creative? Now, check this out. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. If you're a player, let's say you're of my age, you're 55, and you just started playing bass, so you haven't been playing very long, but look back on your life, and when were you creative outside of being musically creative? When, like, so say you were in business and you could constantly come up with creative solutions to problems. So I'm not saying you have to like volunteer, in a business or anything, but look at what was in your life other than work. Did you, like, maybe you went sailing, maybe you had a sailboat and you sailed, and that's something that's not in your life right now. Whatever it might be, if you can recreate the emotions and the environment of when you thought you were the most creative in your life, you'll see that it'll reinvigorate your creativity. This is the one where, as I mentioned before, I've been hired as a consultant for different musicians and artists who felt like their creativity had dried up. And of course, I taught clinics for years on this, and I wrote books and articles about it. So in this time, whenever I covered this topic, I could see the most people crossing, I don't know, it seems like voodoo. I don't think that's going to work. And all I say is, try it. Maybe it won't work for you, but I have yet to have someone come back and tell me that they didn't see a boost in their creativity when they revisited elements of their most creative time. So that's all I'm saying. Give it a shot. And do me a favor. If you try it and you have results, good or bad, I'm not trying to, I don't want to skew anything, but whatever your results are, share it in the comments section below. The only thing I would say is I didn't notice an improvement in my creativity until I did it for a couple weeks. I mean, I was coming home from work, having a soda, reading comic books and reading novels and playing with Legos. After a couple weeks, I started seeing the benefits. So you don't do it for a day and say, I'm not any more creative. Now, you kind of have to really get it into your life. And so I'd say minimum 14 days. And then let me know the results. I can't wait. This is something that I've benefited from and I've returned to several times. Several times in my life when, after having a child, changing my job, some health issues I had, I cut out reading and I cut out, different elements. And so when I wanted to kind of boost my creativity, I don't drink Royal Crown Cola anymore, but I make sure I read, and I still have all of my daughter's Legos. So every once in a while, I'll bust them out and I'll play with my Legos, and just now I do adult Legos, which I do woodworking, and I notice that when I spend a day working in the wood shop building something, I feel more musically creative. So give it a shot. Try it. It's so cool. And let me know how it works. I'm really interested if you're watching this video and you're not a musician, but you searched on creativity and this came up. Please share, like, why'd you check on, like, what were you looking to do? What elements, like, how do you express your creativity? Is it artistically? Is it strategically? Is it as in business? And see, like, let us know how this helped or didn't help you in your area. I'm just fascinated by this. This is really interesting. All right. So there you have it. Recreate your creativity. I really believe in this, and I hope you'll give it a shot at least. All right, and I'll see you at the next video. Thank you so much.